Hi, this is Tom Gruen. I'm professor of marketing at the Paul College and one of the organizers of the Paul College Social Media Marketing Symposium. And I want to welcome you all to day 3 of the symposium. And so far, we've had 4 great sessions of social media, and those recordings will be posted on and available on our website next week. But for today's session, I want to introduce our host for today, our host and moderator for today's session, DJ Haskins, who will be providing an overview and introduction of today's sessions. DJ is the Senior Director of Marketing at Engageware, and he's a UNH alum and a longtime friend of the college. And he's taught digital marketing and has been immersed in digital marketing for a long time, and has been a good friend. And I want to welcome us all. And so thanks, DJ. I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tom. And good morning, everyone. Excuse me. Yeah, so as Tom said, I'm a 2-time alumni of UNH from the Whittemore School, showing my age here. Been involved with the Digital Marketing Symposium all 7 years in some way, shape, or form, and really, really excited and honored that I was asked to participate again. So we have 3 great sessions today, which I'll cover in a second. But before we get started, just wanted to call out some people that need a big thank you for all this. So obviously the Paul College, the Voice Z Digital Marketing Agency, who helped put together this symposium, especially the student team that's been working behind the scenes, Becky Milbury, Chloe Camilio, Colin Buckley, Alyssa Ford, and the Voice Z Digital Managing Director, Haley Simpson. The Peter T. Paul Innovation Fund for supporting this year's Social Media Marketing Symposium, and Dean Deborah Merrill Sands. The New Hampshire Small Business Development Center for their partnership in this morning's session. And the symposium faculty advisors, Diane Devine, as well as Tom. And then, of course, our friend Andy for helping us with all of the tech support along the way. So this morning we have 3 great sessions that we're going to go through today. First up, we have Sarah and Nicole. We're going to be talking about the key elements of social media marketing. Then we're going to have an social media strategy that works. Then we have another great session with winning with social media advertising, how to use Facebook and Instagram. And we're going to close it up with your guide to successful social media, an application from the pet care industry. So it's always fun to see examples of how do we actually use these in practice, covering different industries and different disciplines. And what I love about these types of things is I always take away little nuggets, right? Whether it's practical tips that I could leverage. And a lot of times it's inspiration, right? Seeing other ideas, hearing from thought leaders. One of the things that when I've taught in the past, I really encourage, and I encourage all of my team members, is to start a swipe file. And if you're not familiar with what a swipe file is, it's just basically an inspiration board, right? When you see great ideas, you kind of tuck them away. And if you have a swipe file and it's organized appropriately, you know where to find those things, right? And whenever I'm stuck, whenever I need inspiration, whenever I'm just kind of looking for something, right, I can dig through that swipe file. So I'm excited to add to my swipe file today. And that would be my key recommendation for you all listening, is just start to organize your ideas or your thoughts. A swipe file is a great place to do that. I have screenshots, I have emails that I forward to myself and just put in the subject line swipe file, and then the context of that. So when I'm going back through that. So that's what I'm most excited for today, is to hear from my peers, to get some inspiration and to add to my swipe file. So I've talked enough. I'm going to turn it over to our first speakers today. So I'm really excited to hear Sarah Cowart and Nicole Boyl from Social HQ. They're going to talk about the 5 key elements to a social media strategy that works. And a little bit about their agency. They're a New Hampshire-based creative marketing studio that provides branding, web design, and social media management services to businesses across the country. They develop beautiful and effective websites and social media strategies that embody your brand's authentic voice, which is a key critical component of how do we come across as authentic so we can really get the engagement and build that community. So without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Sarah and Nicole, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, DJ. All right.
And real quick, Sarah and Nicole, before you get started, I'll monitor the Q&A. So don't worry about that. I know that presenting and monitoring that can be tricky, so I'll take care of that.
Awesome. So we are going to be presenting today the 5 key elements of social media strategy that works. As DJ said, we are a digital marketing agency that is out of New Hampshire. We are made up of digital marketers, social media managers, paid advertisers, brand and food photographers, and copy editors. And our goal is to kind of showcase their online story for all of our customers and help them grow their business. I'm actually an alum from UNH, and I'm really excited to be here today.
So these are the main 5 key elements. There's a lot that goes into a social media strategy, but some of the things we want to talk about today are determining which platforms to be on, creating what we call content pillars, how to develop a robust content calendar, using user-generated content, and the importance of engagement. So first, there's some things about social media. We're all very well aware that it's been increasing the amount of time that people spend on it. So right now, about 145 minutes a day people spend on social media. So as a business, it's really important for your brand to have a presence on the various platforms.
So it's really important to determine which social media platforms to utilize. You do not need to utilize all the platforms that are out there. There are so many different social media platforms. So these are questions that you should ask yourself when you're trying to determine what platforms to utilize. What are your social media goals? How are you going to be getting your brand out there? Who's your ideal client? What product and service that you sell, because it really depends on the platform. So if you are, for example, a blogger, you might be wanting to use Pinterest so you can post your recipes. But if you're a Mexican food restaurant, you might not want to use Pinterest because you might not have recipes to share. What is your budget, and like what resources do you have available? When we say resources available, how many staff do you have to maintain those platforms? Is it just one of you, or do you have multiple people kind of helping you? So the most popular platforms that we kind of work with as an agency and that we see like a trend really with are Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Snapchat. Google My Business has become really popular for a lot of businesses these days, Twitter, Reddit, YouTube.
And the key thing to remember when you're deciding which platforms to be on, there's a lot that goes into it. A lot of times as a business, you might feel that you have to show up on every single platform because what if your ideal client's hanging out there, you need to kind of grab their attention. When in reality, it's better to show up on, depending on the amount of resources you have, 1 to 2 platforms and utilize all the features of that platform than using all the platforms and only some of those features. So what I mean by that is on Instagram, if you're a business and you're just doing feed posts, because you need to spread your resources to then show up on Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest. You're only showing up a little bit on Instagram, where it would be better if you were utilizing the feed posts on Instagram, Instagram Lives, Instagram Stories, Reels, all the different features so you can really show up, because people consume content different ways on these platforms. So when you're using all the features, it's better for each individual algorithm of the different platforms. And then the key, no matter which platform you choose for a business, the key of social media is to be social. So let your audience see who makes up your brand. So to elaborate a little bit more on that, being social means we're not, again, just posting the content related to your brand. You're actually engaging with your audience. You're using the different features that these different platforms allow to ask them questions, to get feedback. So you really open up that conversation, because the more you open up that conversation, the better it will be for your social media strategy and performance. And we'll go over a little bit more of that when we talk about engagement.
And also, a lot of the features on the platforms are changing. So they're not going to stay the same. So say if you're on Instagram and you know all the features that are currently there today, tomorrow they could be adding 6 or 7. We saw that this week alone, they added 9 new features. So it's really important that you're not stretching yourself too thin, because if you are, you won't be able to utilize all these new features that come about.
So Now that you've picked the platforms you're going to be on, it's what are you putting out to these various platforms? And we have kind of a way to look at it. So you have your business identity. That would be like who your business is, what you sell, and who you're trying to target. Then we're going to use different features of the different social media platform to get your visibility out there so people know who you are. Because in order for somebody to purchase from your business using social media, they need to know your brand exists first. Then they can move on to getting to know, like, and trust you before it leads to that sale, whether that's buying or maybe referring a family or friend to you. So we kind of broke down all the different pieces of some of the social media strategies. And it's kind of a way to think about the content you're putting out there. So if you look under the visibility side of things, utilizing paid advertisements or optimizing your Instagram and Facebook profile to really have some key features. For example, in your Instagram bio, you can add in your profile name your location. And when you do that, it increases the chances that when somebody's searching on the platform, say for a florist in New Hampshire, that your profile is going to come up. Again, when you increase the chances your profile comes up, you're growing your visibility on these different platforms. On the flip side, when you have the relationship building piece, you're putting out content that's designed to further lead somebody down that buying process. So some of that would be, they already know what your brand is. Now you are putting out posts that provide value. So if you are a florist, that could be sharing how to make your flowers last longer. By sharing content like this, you're getting to somebody to trust you, which again will lead to that sale.
We typically find that when people come to work with an agency like ours, or they tend to hire someone, they've kind of already figured out the identity piece. They already have a logo, a brand voice, a mission, a product, or a service, and they already kind of know who their ideal client is. They might not know their target market, but they have a good like overall sense of who they want to purchase this product.
So now we'll dive into a little bit more into content pillars. So if you're using social media for a brand, it can be a little overwhelming, like what do I share? Typically, a lot of times it might be easy to just kind of share the different promotions that you have going on. But again, the goal is to really provide a variety of content in a strategic way. So you're guiding somebody from getting to know you, starting to know, like, and trust you. So we kind of think of the content we're putting out on somebody's Instagram or Facebook in these 4 different categories. Now, it does depend a little bit on the brand, but for the most part, this works really well. So you'll have some posts that are geared towards educating their audience, sharing tips, and letting them know that this business is an expert as to what they're speaking about. Now, once you start sharing those tips that showcase that you're the expert, you'll then want to back it up with pillar number 2, which is customer success. Help your audience see that what you're saying you're an expert at is actually true. So you're sharing reviews, success stories, how you've actually helped clients so they can see how it applies. And then it leads to content pillar number 3, which are what makes your business unique? What are some of the behind the scenes? These are things to kind of get fun and creative with when you're sharing social media, especially the behind the scenes, so that people can really see how you work. There could be continuing with the florists. There could be a lot of different florists that kind of do the same thing, but one florist could offer something special as far as their process goes. Maybe they offer hand delivery, things like that. By showcasing the behind the scenes, you're able to give your audience the insight as to the different things you offer in a creative way. The 4th pillar, typically it depends. This is where it depends a little bit more on the brand, whether it's going to be personal. What that means might vary. So for a smaller business, personal might be giving some insight into the business owner, who they are. We've seen what works a lot for, say, a small business is getting to see what they do outside of work. And again, this might not be on a lot of your strategy, but it might be a way to use, say, Instagram stories, giving that insight. It works really well.
Even large companies such as Target, they use the personal pillar. They share about how they have all their employees go out and volunteer, and then they put video content on their social media regarding that. So it really can be used in like very different manners. And then we wanted to kind of give you guys an example. This is a client we work with, and they are in the travel industry, and we wanted to kind of break it down so you can really see and what each content pillar is like. So for education, we have this client talk about travel tips, travel resources, like industry beliefs. A huge topic right now is when you travel, what do you need to show of proof that you're vaccinated? So right now, this client is giving tips on how to travel in a safe manner to all these different countries. And then customer success, she's putting out testimonials, she's doing customer stories. So recently she just put out a customer story about a situation where she needed to cancel someone's trip because they could no longer go, and that person did a video testimonial and they posted about it. That's a great customer success. How did you help this person in a problem situation? Another one is like the business, that behind the scenes. So she is taking video content when she is helping someone book their travel, that people really want to see, like, how is the process done? And then for personal content, whenever this person is traveling, she is sharing photos and videos, and she's really putting her personality out and showcasing what she likes to do in the travel industry and why traveling is so important to her.
So we thought we would show you kind of how we took those content pillars and applied it to Instagram stories. So for one of our clients, again, you want to kind of get creative when you're sharing on social media. So they are a caramel company, and we know we wanted to let their audience know that they offered 8 flavors, some different ways to utilize their caramel. So we put together this story series. So on the first slide, you'll see that we asked, did you know we have 8 flavors? By adding the feature that Instagram allows, this poll feature, you're letting the audience engage. It kind of opens up that conversation. Again, thinking back to that chart, it helps build that relationship. The next slide, we asked your favorite way to eat the caramel, and we gave them a few ideas, and we let them know kind of like what the company's favorite was with straight out of the jar. And then of course we closed it off with a discount code to then take somebody from getting to know the different types of flavors they have, knowing a little bit more about the product, and then hopefully leading to the sale. And it was really successful. Another thing you can do to showcase your personality, we thought we would show, is for a brand, you can create branded gifts. Now, this is really great when you're showing up, say, on Instagram stories or a post on Facebook, and you wanted to add a little bit more personality to the brand, kind of capture that attention of somebody to stand out. So there's a ton of apps out there that you can create them. A really easy one, which we highly recommend, is Image Play. We have the name right there for you. But when you see this flashing sticker, it helps to kind of, again, bring attention as people are scrolling through. They're seeing so much content on social media right now.
And a great way with these gifted gifts is you have a cell phone in one of the gifts. You can actually change out the image. So if you want to showcase your website, for example, on the mobile view, you can put that image into this GIF.
So some keys to remember as you're creating content. Again, the goal is to humanize your brand so that your audience can really connect with you and sell your product or service. So to kind of recap, that sharing tricks, tips and tricks, customer reviews. You'll notice a lot of larger brands are actually doing this. They just do it in different ways. Even Coca-Cola, they'll sometimes have a celebrity be their face of the brand. They'll endorse them because when you have that human connection, again, it really makes your brand more relevant in somebody's life. And the more you can do that on social media, the more likely they're able to remember your product or service when they're ready to buy. So that's the key as you're creating content. Now that you have all these content ideas going, it's important to organize them in a way that you can actually be strategic with it. So that brings us to the next key element.
So developing a robust content calendar. What is a content calendar? It is the hub for all of your marketing efforts, and it's one of the most effective tools to have when you're using, especially posting to social media.
So there's a few different ways to showcase a content calendar. So a lot of times it depends on kind of the business and the operations. We really like the calendar overview where you can see kind of here what's being posted each day. On a content calendar, you're going to put the social media posts that you're doing. So you'll see here, We showcase that on the 10th, there's going to be an upcoming giveaway. It's going to go out to Facebook and Instagram, and we have the time that we're announcing it. Again, this kind of takes all those ideas that you have going and organizes them. It's really important to make sure that you're promoting everything that your business is going to be doing in a month, that you're touching on everything enough. So you're going to want to put on your content calendar your social media posts. You can even outline your email campaigns, any promotions that you're doing. If you have a physical location in store or on your website, put that all in your content calendar so you can have posts that relate to it. Any collaborations you're doing with other businesses, or if you're using influencers, put that all on your content calendar. You'll also want to put important dates. So what I mean by that is if you're a business and you have your company anniversary, you have upcoming trainings, or depending on how many employees, employee anniversaries, those are all important dates to have on a calendar. So when you're going to sit down to create posts, you can remind yourself, okay, let's create a post for so-and-so's business anniversary. Again, it connects to one of those pillars that we talked about. You'll also want to include on a content calendar, one of the things that you can include are your paid ads start and end dates, so that you can see when different promotions and campaigns are running.
And a lot of social media content scheduling platforms have national holidays that you can already like look up and see. So that's really helpful to putting that in your content calendar. So these are some scheduling platforms that we suggest using. So it is Later. This is actually an example of one of our content calendars for a blogging client that makes recipes. And it kind of shows you the overview of the month and what platform we are posting to. So there's Instagram and Facebook for Later. So the pink is actually Instagram. We are not showcasing the blue at this moment, but it kind of tells you what platform you're able to post on, because every platform has a different optimization for your post. And it's really important that you're going into each platform and optimizing it for that platform. So some of these scheduling platforms we suggest working with are Later, HubSpot, Planoly, Hootsuite, Facebook Creator Studio. I know with Facebook Creator Studio, you can't create all the functionality that you could on Later or Loomly. We use Loomly as our agency content calendar because people are able to comment back on posts and give us feedback so we can really understand their brand voice. Kind of how we spoke before, brand voice is really important. You want to be targeting your ideal customer and making sure that they're purchasing. So having a good brand voice is really important for your posting.
And then the other important thing with using scheduling platforms, aside of organizing kind of what you're posting, when it automatically posts, it's saving you time so that you're able to create more content for later dates. So we're all looking for ways to save time. So we highly suggest using a scheduling platform.
The only thing that scheduling platforms can't currently do besides Facebook Creator Studio is scheduling stories. Right now, stories are all manually. I know that there are some social media platforms that they say that you can schedule out your Instagram stories. However, it breaks Instagram's rules. So I would be really careful because they can shut down your account if you do that. Right now, it is all manual except for Facebook Creator Studio, which does have some limited capabilities. So if you're going to be trying to schedule out stories, you can put them in your content calendar as a draft, telling you to post and reminding you to post. But unfortunately, at this current moment, you're not able to use any of these platforms to post Instagram stories.
So we talked a little bit about the different pillars. Now, one of them was customer success. There's no better way to kind of show that customer success than with user-generated content. User-generated content is when you can get your audience or your customers to take photos or videos of them using your product or service. When they do that and post on social media, they're doing a few different things. They're sharing with their friends and family, growing your visibility. And then they're also helping anybody that maybe already knows of your brand further lead them down the process by saying, hey, I bought this product or I used this service and it actually worked and I really enjoyed it. So again, helps build that trust factor as well. And it's a really good way when you include user-generated content in your social media strategy to create that community around your brand on social media. So here you'll see this is from one of our clients. They create custom cookies, and these are all the different photos her audience had took and then tagged her in. And now what she's able to do is use this content to then reshare on her social media. So it also can be a great way to get some really cool photos for your social media page to make it fun and interactive.
Plus, when they are tagging your brand, they're showing their whole community about your product and bringing bigger brand awareness to your product. So an interesting fact is that 35% of people that use user-generated content are more memorable than other types of social media content.
So there's a lot of ways to generate user-generated content. It is something that you'll need to kind of figure out what's going to work for your business. So we have one of our clients here, they have a candy store. And when they designed their store, they created a selfie wall. And typically they'll have a tripod set up with a spot for somebody to add their phone so that they can take photos in front of this wall. And through time of us having their customers take photos, resharing them on social media, it kind of trains their audience to, hey, when you come in, take a photo. It's fun, it's interactive. And also it really helps to grow this brand's visibility. So some other ways to do it would be with a contest or giveaway. So if you do a contest and you share a post on social media saying, hey, in order to win whatever gift it is, take a photo of using our product or at our location, tag us on social media, and that's how you enter. That works really well. Again, having a selfie wall, or a lot of businesses might have a sign on a wall that says, make sure to tag us, and it will have a little QR code. So when you scan that QR code with your phone, it's actually bringing you right to their Instagram so you can see what their username is, give them a follow. Another way to do this is to create branded hashtags. So this is really popular amongst some bigger brands, but it's something that we can use no matter which brand size you are.
There's a cookie company in New Hampshire that we work with, and their branded hashtag is treats you can trust. So when you go into that hashtag on Instagram, all those posts are user-generated content that the brand can then repurpose for their Instagram profile.
And then, of course, with the increase of Reels and TikToks, if your brand creates a viral trend that other people have to replicate, they want to take part in, that's a great way. This one's probably the hardest of the rest to do, but it can be a great way if it works. And then the last is to just ask for it. I think a lot of times we might forget to just ask for your audience to tag you on social media, to leave you a review. All these things can then be repurposed on your social media.
If you're having a hard time generating user-generated content, what we see a lot of our brands do is offer a discount. Hey, if you post and tag us, we'll give you 10% off your next order. That's a great way, besides giveaways, to kind of make it so that people want to come and utilize your brand and your hashtags.
Okay, so now that you've got your audience tagging you in posts, tagging you in their stories, what should you do? The key is to make sure that when you'll see here on the left side, get tagged in a story, make sure to reshare it to your own stories. What this does is it helps to make the customer feel special, that you actually took their photo that they used and added it to your own business's Instagram stories. Plus, the more times you see somebody else when they're watching your profile, when they see, hey, so-and-so got added to their stories, it kind of trains them to tag you in their product when they either buy or they work for you. And again, as we touched on before, it really showcases that customer success. I know a few times I've tagged businesses in my stories, and when they didn't reshare and they didn't comment back, I didn't really kind of take notice, but their brand, it wasn't going to make me do it again. Where the brands that have commented back and they actually reshared it to their stories, again, it makes you feel special, and it's going to make you to tag them again, which is really good. So the more you can reshare it and comment back to these different things, you're going to get these people to become more loyal followers, which should then lead to more loyal customers.
And if you have like a celebrity, for example, create user-generated content and you share that and people like that celebrity, that will really boost your brand awareness. Just this week, we had Drew Barrymore create a content post for one of our clients, and she put it up on her stories, and then the brand was able to reshare it, and they got a lot of traction because a lot of people like Drew Barrymore because she's an actress, and it really kind of just boosted their brand and their sales in the end.
So the key with social media, and one of the things you'll want to track, is your engagement. Are you getting people to like your photos, to comment on them? We want to think a little bit more than the typical likes with your social media strategy. So it's really a key thing is to look at the engagement. So again, this might be saves, the number of pins if you're using Pinterest, how many times they clicked the website link if it's in the caption. Things like that are a lot more important as far as tracking data. And when you're using the different content pillars and user-generated content, this is going to all help, and it all works together to really increase your engagement.
So we gave an example of one of our clients' posts that it technically did go viral. So this is just an example of the analytics, but they got a lot of likes, they got a lot of comments, a lot of people reshared it. I think it's 53 people reshared this post in their stories, 14 people saved this post in their stories. This is just an example, but engagement, it would be really important. So they got 22 comments to respond to those comments. I know it's really tempting just to give the little heart button on Instagram or just to like someone's comment, but really try to engage and respond back to that comment. So we kind of talked about this before, but we want to get people into your direct messages on any social media platform, because if you start to build that relationship piece, then they'll be more likely to purchase a product. So this is just an example of our DMs that when we have post any type of content, people then reach out to us and say, oh my gosh, we love that content. That was such a helpful tip. We make an effort to respond back to all the messages that we get so that we are kind of building that relationship piece. This is a huge part of engagement that a lot of people miss. They think that if someone messages them like, good job, that's kind of all that needs to be done, that you can just like it. But it's really important if you really want to build that like lifetime customer, that you're responding back to them, that you're engaging with them, and that you're responding to their DMs.
And again, when you think back to the content pillars we shared and why it's so important to have content from all the various categories, for a lot of our clients, the stories that do the best, that have the increased direct messages, are those behind the scenes. There might be a time lapse of them producing, we have a maple syrup company, so it's like a time lapse of them actually putting labels on the maple syrup bottle. Again, it's a quick, creative way to remind somebody, hey, they make maple syrup, but they actually start to know, like, and respond back to messages like that. So that's a great thing to do. And as Sarah said, when you get somebody to message you, this is the virtual way of opening up that conversation. When somebody starts messaging with you, if you think back to that visibility leads to relationship, you're making this relationship stronger. You're really letting this person know that they're seen and building that relationship, which will then hopefully lead to the sale. The other key thing to remember with social media is it takes time. So just because somebody comes across a post that you share for a brand doesn't necessarily mean they're going to buy right away. It's going to take seeing the post several times, seeing things in Instagram stories or seeing things on Facebook before, again, they're nurtured into buying. So if you can keep that conversation going, it just kind of opens it up. If you think about walking into a store, if you have like a favorite coffee shop and you know the owner, chances are they're having conversations with you when you go in that really makes you feel, again, special, and you're going to feel a little bit more loyal to that coffee shop.
And besides direct messages, like responding to them, you can reshare, utilize content. So if someone tells you you can create user generated content. So if someone tells you that they love your product, they think it's doing amazing, take a screenshot of that and repurpose that as content and share that on your social media platforms. You don't have to have their name in it if you don't want to, but it's a great way to show people kind of that customer success, that people like working with your brand, and you would have never gotten that content if you didn't answer your DMs.
Awesome. So again, that kind of goes over a little bit of how to get some engagement. Now we just want to touch on how to actually calculate the engagement rate. So again, the engagement rate is a metric used to gauge the level of engagement generated from like campaigns that you're doing. So if you take the amount of likes and comments that you get on a post, or we tend to do more than just one post, like a series of 10, add it all together, divide it by the follower count, and then times it by 100%, you can get the engagement rate. When you do this, smaller brands, a good thing to kind of get to is around that 5%, 5 to 10%. That's a really actually good engagement rate. And it's going to vary on your business size. So the larger a brand, if you have like over 100,000 followers, it might be a little bit less. And so that's a normal thing. A lot of smaller brands might even have a higher engagement rate than that 10%. Again, this is why it's key to use the different features that a platform offers, because different users engage different ways. We just did a poll in our stories the other day that was, do you prefer feed posts over stories on Instagram? And it was surprising to see the variety. Majority of people preferred stories, but what this allowed us to see was that some people are consuming content different ways. So if we only showed up using feed posts, we might miss some people. So that's why it's really important to use all the different features.
And a lot of people tend to think that your follower count is the most important aspect of your social media. We disagree with that. We think engagement is the most important piece. So if you have 15,000 followers, but you're only getting one like or no comments for your post, you're not actually engaging with your audience. You're just putting out content and you do have a following. So we highly suggest that if you are not getting engagement right now, that you go back and you go into other accounts and start engaging with those accounts or viewing other people's videos and commenting, because that will drive people to your page. And you need engagement to kind of get them through that journey of, once they engage, then hopefully they direct message you and you're able to then convert that into a sale. But if they're not engaging, the likelihood of you getting them to that sale piece is very low.
Awesome. So again, to kind of recap, social media is a really powerful tool for businesses to be using. And the key is to really connect with the audience. Use it to be social. Let your customers know like that you're there, that you're open for business, that you're listening, if they have feedback, if they're using your product, and really get that conversation going so you create a community around your brand. And when you utilize these 5 key elements into your marketing strategy, it can really help you stand out on social media, stand out amongst all the noise of all the people posting and sharing things, so that your business connects with its ideal audience. Because again, that's key. We don't want to connect with just anybody and everyone. We want to connect with the ideal audience, form that relationship with them so that we can lead it to a sale.
So we're going to take questions now.
If anyone
All
has
right, Sarah, Nicole, great job. We did have some questions come in, and I would encourage, if there are more questions, please just go into the Q&A and drop those in. So we had 2 questions from Chris come in. So we'll start with the first one, which is, what is the age group breakdown of Instagram users? 18 to 30, 30 to 45, etc. Meaning how many 45 to 60-year-olds actually use Instagram as a platform, and more importantly, would make a purchase from the platform.
So we've actually found that analytics kind of depend on the brand. So you might have a different age group than another brand. I mean, there are stats that Instagram has put out that it's like most people that are on the platform are really between ages of 25 and 44. But we've actually found with some of our brands that didn't think they would get the older population, they're getting those people to their brand. So although Instagram's putting out that information saying 25 to 44, I would still try it for your brand and see if it works, because you might be able to target them in a different way than another person couldn't target that person, that population.
We actually have one of our clients, their ideal client is the 55 to 70. She as a person likes using Instagram, so we've tailored her strategy around who her ideal client, the fact she wants to be on Instagram, and it's actually worked very well. Again, when you're using these content pillars, you're using things that, what does this ideal client need to know? You're going to attract them. She has roughly just close to 4,000 followers, and right now 60% of those followers are in her target age range. So again, a lot of younger people might be on Instagram, but really go back to those questions to ask when just choosing a platform. And then when you tailor your strategy, you can target these different people. So I wouldn't necessarily stay away from it if you have an older target audience.
All right, good. Thank you. That's a good answer. I think that's the age older. We try to bucket people into, oh, if you're this age, you're not using that. And the reality is it varies, right?
It really does vary.
Yeah. All right. So then another question from Chris was, how do you defeat negative user-generated content? AKA, I hate this product. This service is a waste of time, et cetera, et cetera.
So that's really common. It happens to all brands. There are more people that are going to create negative content and negative comments, and there are people that are going to create positive, unfortunately. And you really just need to respond to those people. If they are leaving a negative comment, by you not responding, it actually makes other people come to your platform, think that you don't care about your brand, you don't care about what people think. So my first step and my first advice would be go back and respond to that person. Make sure that, figure out what happened. Did something go wrong? Was something wrong with shipping? What was wrong with the product? Because maybe something was wrong and they just didn't reach out in a manner that was the best manner to reach out in.
And then always try to take it off the platform, because you don't want to have this conversation thread going on your Instagram comments of all the back and forth of negative. So you can respond back, asking them to email you or message you so that you can help rectify the issue. Again, the more you grow your visibility, unfortunately, a lot of times, as Sarah mentioned, we tend to leave a negative review or comment. But when you have some of these strategies in place, hopefully it brings more positive stuff to combat it.
When Nicole was saying take it off the platform, there is a restaurant we work with, and we tell everyone, like, we're really sorry to hear about that situation. Could you please email us more information? And then we give a different email that's just for comments on social media, so it doesn't kind of spam your inbox, and kind of get them into those messages, figure out what happened, how we can fix it, and then how as a business we can improve. And we tell them those types of things. And that is how, we get those from negative to positive. We've seen like a good kind of shift when we have a negative comment, we respond, and then it becomes kind of a positive experience.
Yeah, and there's a great book out there called Hug Your Haters, which speaks to this whole thing. And everything that you said, he kind of talks to, written by Jay Baer. But if this is an issue, I think, or if this is something that people are seeing, I would encourage you to read that book, because there's a lot of great tips in there. And one of the things that he finds is that it's really easy to turn a negative into a positive, right? Just by responding, because so few businesses do, that there's really a good opportunity to kind of turn that negative into a positive, not just for that person or those people, but for the other people that, as you talked about, Sarah, right? Like that, yeah. Other people see the visibility of it and like, wow, this is a responsive business. All right, so we have two more questions, and then I have some other questions or some more thoughts. It was really good. All right, so for Instagram polling feature, how do you set that up? And then how do you monitor results? That was one of the things that I had written down too, was like the polls seem to be a great way to encourage more engagement. So how do you, just at a high level, I'm sure you could spend an hour talking about how do you set it up, but just at a high level, how do you, what are some of the things that you do, and how do you monitor that?
Yeah. So for Instagram polls, when you're going to first take a story. So if you pull up your camera, you go to Instagram stories, you take a photo or you upload a photo. you'll see in the top corner now, Instagram's changing. So everybody's platform we're learning is set up a little bit different, but you should see a little square with I'm going to pull up my phone right as we do it. You'll see a little square with like a smiley face in the top. When you click that, you'll see all of Instagram's different engagement stickers pop up. There's the question box, the quiz feature. One of them is the poll. When you click it, it will open up and it will allow you to type in the different boxes. Now, once you type it in, you have it set up, you post it to your stories. You'll then want to go back and view your own story. When you view your own story and you swipe up, it will show you all the results. It will show you who voted for one option, who voted for the other, and then you can really track it. The thing to remember is to actually go back and check it. So,
And like a great way to use that feature is if you ask someone, have you heard about my brand? Yes or no. And the people that have not heard about your brand, you direct message them and start that conversation. You can offer them a discount to go to your website to purchase. You can even do that for the people that said yes, be like, hey, thank you for being a loyal customer. Here's 10% off our product or service.
and that's worked really well for our brand. So we highly suggest trying that.
Yeah, I use LinkedIn more just from a business perspective. And one of the things that I was playing around with was the poll. And I just asked a simple poll question. I just wanted to kind of test the engagement of it. Ask, when you're out of the office, when checking email and getting caught up, do you start at the bottom or the top?
Yeah.
And I literally had like 700 people respond to the poll. I mean, and I don't, I'm not a very active LinkedIn person, but it was amazing that you could see the reach and then you could see the number of, within 24 hours, there was hundreds and hundreds. And so I love the ideas of polls because it is a good way to, and you could use it for a variety of things, right? For product innovation, you could use it for, discount or whatever. Like what would incentivize you? What type of polls do you love to see? Or what type of posts do you love to see? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to see that, right?
Definitely.
All right, so we have one more question. Hold on one second. All right, here it is. So you showed that engagement rate formula, I think 2 slides ago.
Mm-hmm.
Are there benchmarks or what are ranges that you should expect from that? Or just different benchmarks that you see? Or that how do you judge success, I guess, with that when you're presenting back to your customers or your clients?
So it really depends on like how many followers you have, how many people are engaging with you.
It's very common to be around, like when we start with a brand, to be around that 2 to 3%. That's kind of like, if you're there, it's average. It's like a good kind of starting point. Again, you can, depending on the number of followers, get it up closer to the 5%. If you have a smaller following, say under 1,000 followers, it might be closer to the 10%. So that's kind of a good thing. It's really going to depend on your followers. And the more followers you get, unfortunately, just the way the algorithm works, the engagement rate does sometimes go down. But if you're really kind of utilizing some of these tactics, we have some brands with tens of thousands of followers, but their engagement rate is still up by like that 6-8%. So again, to answer the benchmark question, the 2 to 3% is more common. 5 would be really good. And if it's a smaller following, 10 would be like exceptional.
All right, awesome. So no, it's tricky though, right? Because when you tell people like, oh, I have 1,000 followers, like, oh, you could expect 2 to 3. That's kind of that. And I know our next speaker is going to talk more about the paid aspect of it, where you're really kind of focused on the organic or just the, what can I do with, how do I reach people without spending money for it? That's the reality, right? That 2 to 3 to 5% is probably the reality, right? And that's kind of a tough thing for people to recognize, right?
And if
Or to accept, I should say.
If people are working with influencers, which is a great way to get user generated content, you can use that formula to kind of see what their engagement rate is to determine if you should work with them or not.
Yep. All right, so a couple of questions that I had, because we have about 5 more minutes. So you talked about a content calendar, and then you talked about scheduling platforms. So do you typically leverage, and then you show different tools that you use or that could be used. Do you have a different calendar template, or do you just use the same scheduling calendar or the scheduling feature? Are those one and the same, or are those 2 different things?
So it really depends on the the scheduling tool you use. Some allow for you just to only have like Facebook and Instagram. So if you're using one like that, typically we'll create something in like an Excel document that has it all listed so we can make it a little bit more robust. If you're using some of the content calendars that allow for all the different platforms, like for example, the one we use, Loonly, it allows you to add in your email campaigns. So you can be a little bit more, like have more of a robust calendar inside the scheduling platform. So it really depends which one you pick. So again, if you're using like a Later or Planoly for some of our clients that use those, we'll create a Excel document that lists the date you're going to be posting, the platform you're posting to, what the caption is, what the media is, the hashtags, if you're going to be using them, what that is. So it really lays out everything.
Location as well.
Yeah, location.
What do you mean by location?
So a lot of posts, you can optimize it by adding a location so that when someone search for that, like Linfield, Mass, or
Okay.
Derry, New Hampshire, that you're populating in that like location tag.
So that's really important for small store type businesses or local businesses.
Yeah. And even large businesses also use it. If you're like a restaurant, you're a franchise, and you want people to come to your location versus a location down the street, using your location tag really helps you do that.
Cool. All right, so a couple things that I had, I talked about the swipe file at the beginning, so excuse me. A couple things that I found really interesting that I kind of tucked away in my swipe file. You talked about the personal, you talked about, I think on like one of the first few slides, you talked about the 4 different quadrants of the types of content that you could have, and then the personal, tying it back to the mission, right? So I think you, on your first slide, you had brand and you had mission. It seems that there's a lot of brands out there that do a good job of knowing who they are and being really authentic to that. Obviously, Patagonia is a big one, right? Where everything is their personal type of content. And you referenced that you had a few customers that do a really good job of that as well. I think that's really the important thing about having a clearly defined mission. Who are you, right? What do we stand for? Because that would allow you to create those really cool personal stories. The other thing I thought was the behind the scenes. I kind of that just jogged an idea for me for some of the content that we're thinking about with our quote unquote community that we're building of our customers. The behind the scenes stuff. Do you have any good examples of kind of some content that you've been able to create for that kind of behind the scenes type of stuff?
Yeah. So we have a clothing store we work with, for example, and people really like new arrivals. So whenever she gets packages of the new clothing coming in from the designers, she'll set up her phone to kind of time lapse the whole situation of her pulling out items from the box and kind of showcasing them on video. And then she speeds it up and puts music to it and puts it on all of our social media platforms. That's one example. Nicole, can you give another example?
So we have, say for like real estate agents, a lot of times they'll just be posting the like just listed posts. That can get boring after a while. So let people see what the process of getting it listed is, and then you can start teasing the property. So the home and the home stager, the photography. So having photos from that, video content from those different process like parts, or again, setting up your phone and recording a time-lapse video is so quick and easy. You can just set it and forget it. That works well. You can take that content, add it to your Instagram stories the day it happens for behind the scenes. And then the key is to then repurpose it for, say, a TikTok or Instagram reel, put trending music to it. So
cool.
Stuff like that.
Well, Sarah, Nicole, great job. It's 10 o'clock and we have Brad waiting to go, but thank you so much for this. This is a really great session. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much. We appreciate being here.
Yeah, nice work.